Welcome back, Shalloners, and welcome, Arianators. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about Ariana Grande today, and not just Ariana, her garbage fire of an ex, Pete Davidson, who now, in my opinion, has ascended to the level of Drake-ish terribleness. Like, I mean, I hate to be like, canceled, but like, literally, if you encounter Pete Davidson and you are thinking about sleeping with him, girl, I hope you bookmark this video and watch it first, because I am about to break down his incredibly bizarre behavior as of late, what we are learning about his personality, and moreover, what we can learn in our own lives, which is, can a bad guy change? And we've done a lot of videos on this because, I mean, douches are everywhere. They walk amongst us. It's horrifying. Maybe you are one yourself. I kind of am. But Pete is like his own special kind of douche, but we'll break it down why. Because the things that are wrong with him are never going to change. And I think he's an excellent example of a male victim. And typically, especially on this channel, we've talked a lot about like female victims. Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, people like that who get their entire identity from their perceived and created self-victimhood and mythology. But what happens when a guy does it? Blech, Shallon throws up, that's what. But first, just want to remind you guys to follow me on Instagram so you can keep up with my travel adventures and find out where in the world I am. Also, if you have a love question, head to my website, shallonlester.com, and very soon, you can find me on TikTok at ShallonXO. I guess somebody posted a TikTok video like, being like, oh my gosh, I recognize this girl like me from somewhere, and they're like digging. They're like, oh yeah, she did those kissing videos like 7 years ago. I did. I'm a really good kisser. If you guys meet me, if you're a fan and you encounter me someplace, feel free to ask to make out. I'll probably do it. I've got not a lot going on. So let's talk about Pete, okay? Because we got ourselves a garbage fire situation. We always knew Pete was a mess. I've done a lot of videos about him, why Ariana was drawn to him given her own daddy issues, stuff like that. And the thing that I had a problem with Pete was not that he's bipolar, not great. Not that he's got borderline personality disorder, also not great, but that he doesn't care to fix any of it. My friend's here, hold on. Okay, don't freak out. I know, I'm in a different room. My hair's doing something different. My makeup's a little different. I'm still wearing the same t-shirt, but look, someone came in the room. There was a spicy skinny margarita situation. I'm only human. I can't resist anything that I want. So here we are. A few hours later, we're back to business. Little zhuzhed up. I look, well, how I look. So let's talk Pete Davidson, because like I said, what I've realized about this dude is a huge victim narrative. And it's like we don't, or at least I hadn't, thought as much about boy victims because we're so used to thinking about girl victims. Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, blah, blah, blah. And how manipulative like friends can be, moms can be I mean, dads too. But it's like we're not used to thinking of like boys that we date as like employing that victim narrative for their own gains. But they do. And Pete is like such a clear-cut example of this. Once I looked at his behavior, and not even his behavior, things he chose to say in a recent interview and his comedy routine and other interviews, that like, you could talk about anything in the world, and these are the things he chose to share. There's a reason, and it is the construction of a victim narrative. So we're going to break down, first of all, his recent interview with Charlemagne the God, T-H-A, you know how I hate that. You know I hate bad grammar. I want to do a whole video series on celebrities. I'm just going to call it Your Name, ? Why, ? We're going to start with Boogie Wit Da Hoodie. We're going to move on to Party Next Door, all caps, all one word. I can't, how about Tones and I? Your celebrity name, I don't think should have an ampersand in it. Whatever. Just don't even get me started. You know how I am with grammar. You know. So Pete went on Charlemagne the God's radio show. He seems chill. Not Pete. Charlemagne. So we're going to run through the bullet points of what he said, and then we're going to go back and break them down, right? Because we got to look at the forest, and then we got to look at the forest for the trees and see how these things might seem innocuous or even like, oh, vulnerable, and why that is the biggest red flag of all. So thank you to my fan account, Quotes by Shallon, for breaking this all day. Girl, I love you. I love our group thread, by the way. Okay, here's some things he said. He is sober at the moment because he needs to be clean in order to be diagnosed. and to be diagnosed with things like bipolar and borderline personality disorder. And his doctors are always adjusting his medication. I mean, for bipolar, you can't be medicated for borderline personality disorder because it's your personality. There's no like cool pill, which is sucky. That's difficult. And so he goes to rehab when he feels like he's going a little bit too far, you know, so that he can clean out and then get adjusted, like have his meds adjusted. So he's going to rehab in service of getting more drugs. That's what that means. I go to rehab so I can con my doctors into giving me more drugs. I don't think if he was doing a lot of extracurricular recreational drugs, he would have to keep getting his prescription drugs adjusted so frequently. They would probably just work because the baseline body they were working in would be a constant. It wouldn't be like meth, Molly, cocaine, beer, 24 natty lights. It would be like vegetables, food, yoga, meditation, smooth sailing. Medicine can't help your brain if you're fucking with your brain by putting drugs into it. Is that a hard concept? That's weird. It's like, I can't seem to get fitted for shoes because I never stop running. It's like, well, maybe if you sat down, we could put some shoes on you. They're like, no, I can't. That's crazy. I can't risk it. I know I said I was going to break these down after, but you know how I am. So yes, he was diagnosed with these things. That's what he does. He also said that he's a cutter. He cuts his chest and then he hides the cuts with tattoos. Okay. He has only slept, I'm sorry, I have to break them down. I have to break them down as we go. What strikes me overall, and I'll reiterate this at the end, is what he chose to share. I was a cutter. I was a cutter for a while, for a few years, and it is truly one of the most shameful chapters in my life. I don't like to talk about it. I realize I'm talking about it now, but I'm talking about it for a reason, because I've moved on from it and I have the appropriate amount of shame. And that's how we cutters feel. We feel ashamed of ourselves. You feel ashamed of yourself if you were bulimic, and like, you shouldn't to the degree. I don't know. It's like you see other people's problems. You're like, oh, that deserves empathy. But when I'm doing it, I'm like, I am a trash panda. Like, what's wrong with me? But I feel the shame, and the shame keeps me from doing it because I have replaced the behaviors, the cutting behaviors, with healthier behaviors. And that shame, I keep sight of that. I keep that in the foreground because I want to feel it. Because I want to be reminded of how I feel after I cut. Because you don't feel better. You feel sad. You feel embarrassed at yourself because really, it doesn't work. The drug doesn't work for that long, right? Whatever it is you're cutting yourself about, whatever inner turmoil or external turmoil, it's still there probably. And now you just layered another problem on top of it. And that's the worst feeling. You're like, well, now I'm really fucking in it. Great. It's awful. And I don't just like speak about it. And I wouldn't just speak about it to Charlemagne the God when I don't believe Charlemagne asked. I don't think that's on his like typical list of questions. Who's your celebrity crush? Any fun plans for the summer? You ever cut yourself? Like, I don't think this is just like, got your producer notes, like, here you go. Okay. He has only slept with 5 or 6 women. You fucking liar. You're a liar. Pete, I know things. You've done a DP with Machine Gun Kelly. You've probably slept with 5 or 6 women in one day. And like, you know what? Be a slut. Do whatever you want. But don't lie. This is what I was talking about in the video about Bella Hadid and celebs and plastic surgery. Get plastic surgery. Who cares? I've gotten filler, whatever. And of course, that's like my highest rated video, like 300,000 views, and like 300,000 people now know I've gotten filler. I'm like, I thought that video would be like a tree falling in the forest. No, of course not. It's okay. But like, don't even address something if you're just going to lie about it. I also believe Charlemagne, and maybe he did ask, how many girls have you slept with? Pete could have just said, I don't really feel like talking about that. I don't think it's respectful. Okay, there's a way to not answer, but answer without giving things up. And like, for him to say he's only slept with 5 or 6 women, I don't know, dude. I don't believe that. I guess it's irrelevant. Let's say that that's true. We'll log that as a positive data point. We're going to move on. He tells too much in his relationships and scares girls away. He wants them to know that what they're getting into before dating him, so he's honest about his mental disorders and fast lifestyle. Okay, your fast lifestyle, but that doesn't include fucking a bunch of girls, right? Fast lifestyle is in, you just go to all you can eat pancake day at IHOP and you eat all the pancakes. Like, what is your definition of fast lifestyle? It's probably sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? You're doing drugs. I don't know a lot of prudish drug users. I really don't. I don't know a lot of super discerning drug addicts. You'll do any drug you can get your hands on, but you won't do any woman you can get your hands on. Baby boy, that should be inverted. Like, that should be inverted. Be a slut. Don't be a drug addict. So him being like, oh, I'm too much. And girls need to know what they're getting into. This is a hallmark of borderline personality disorder, because BPD is an attachment disorder. And he tells anyone caught standing still that his dad died on September 11th. And I think he was about 6 years old at the time. And that is horrific. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. It's always funny when people use the hashtag never forget. And we're like, we're not forgetting ever. Like, it is so close in our mind at all times. But the victim narrative, that's part of the victim narrative. And we know that people with borderline personality disorder are not born, they're made, right? And they are very, very often made. There's a high correlation between a narcissistic parent and someone who gets BPD. Because what a narcissist does, they're great with a kid, like a baby, because a baby needs you and a baby adores you and a baby worships you. Oh, toddler, mommy, I love you. And then a kid naturally branches away from their parent around 5 or 6, right? Right at Pete's about age. I want to play with my blocks. I'm playing with my friends. Mom, you're embarrassing me. And then the narcissist parent is like, oh, am I? And they withhold and they punish. And the child is like, ah! And they give back and then they pull away and they give back and they pull away. So the child is like terrorized by this. And Pete, on one hand, like idolizes his mother and his sister, but he's got borderline personality disorder. So something bad happened in that house. And it's easy to be like, well, I mean, the withdrawal was his dad's death. It's not, death doesn't do it. And it's not just the withdrawing of affection, it's the putting it back. It's the carrot on the stick. It's the back and forth, right? That's what fucks you up. Look at how we are with dudes. If a guy breaks up with us, I mean, my God, we're grieving and it's awful. But it's when they're in and out and loitering and breadcrumbing that we are undone. And we feel like we have an attachment disorder. We are manic and insane and all over the place the way someone with BPD feels a lot of the time. You know, so it's that on such a grand scale with your parent. So I think, and I could be wrong, but I'm looking at the dots and I'm connecting them and I'm seeing maybe a family that has defined itself on tragedy. What could be the case is she was grief-stricken and she, not even intentionally, was sort of hot and cold in terms of attachment and attention that she gave him. You know, like maybe some days she was completely shut down. And so no matter what kind of crisis he was having, it didn't matter. Mommy needed her space. Mommy, blah, 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 blah. You know, maybe there wasn't a lot of like, maybe nobody went to therapy about this shit. Like maybe this was just like, don't talk about it and, you know, idolize your father, whatever. This is Staten Island accent. I mean, maybe it was a bit more complicated than that. Maybe his mother has defined herself by this loss. That can be common in the first responder community. You know, women who are married to first responders are very, very devoted, and very oftentimes like their identity is wrapped up in their husband's job. Proud NYPD wife, proud FDNY wife, you know, and then if the husband dies, their identity goes with him. And it's like, and you get a lot of positive reinforcement, you know, when you're mourning. It's like you can kind of ride that wave for a while and put off the healing and put off the reshaping of yourself and your own identity. You know, it's really tough. It's really tough. So the bottom line is though, I mean, it's not a bottom line because who knows? I don't know what went on in that house, but I would bet dollars to donuts that there was a withholding of affection intermittently that fucked him up real good. Because here's a data point that I found interesting. He said he has suicidal thoughts, but insisted he would never commit suicide because he has a mom and a sister and doesn't want to hurt them. You know what him bringing that up smacks of to me? Revenge. if you're not going to commit suicide, if that's just like not on the table, why would you even bring it up? Right? Would you like it if a boy's like, you know, I want to cheat on you, but I'm not going to? You're welcome. You'd be like, well, now I'm fucking terrorized. Now I'm terrorized by this. He says that, I think, consciously, you know, or unconsciously, something is at play. But it seems like he said that as like revenge. It's like, oh, you danced in and out of my affection, like out of my life in that way. I'm going to call you wasted off of 36 Natty Ice Lights and be like, I can't take it anymore. Boop. And then I'm going to shut my phone off for 45 minutes. And I'm going to watch you plug in and freak out because I'm now the block of ice. That's what I'm going to do. Right? When people threaten suicide, truly there's nothing more disgusting to me because they're holding people in their lives hostage. And I'm not saying if you have suicidal thoughts, you're disgusting. No, it's the people who threaten it. If you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. If you don't do this, I'm going to kill myself. Fuck you. Fuck you. Go to rehab, get some help. Go to therapy, get some help. And I have a real strong opinion on this because I've had suicidal thoughts before. I went through a really dark period and I am sure that I was holding some people in my life hostage. And I hate that. So I'm really kind of harsh about it because I know I've been there, you know, and the things you hate in others are the things you hate in yourselves, right? But when you think about who takes someone hostage, terrorists. Terrorists take people hostage. And Pete has shown many times that he's a bit of an emotional terrorist. He carpet bombs like a terrorist can. You know, he just comes in like so big and needs so much. And if he doesn't get it, he withholds to the point of like suicide. And isn't that such a fuck you to Ariana Grande, who already lost an ex suddenly and tragically? So now she's got this sort of Damocles hanging over her head that Pete might basically do the same thing. But oh no, I'd never do it though. I'd never do it. But I just want everyone in my life to be on edge. I don't want anyone to get rest. I don't want anyone to think that things are going well. And if they are going well, and his life is going well, I'm going to bring this up just to remind all you where you stand, that I'm in control because I'm a victim. And what do victims become? Covert bullies. We talk about this with Taylor Swift. Because when people feel victimized, they feel entitled to do whatever they want. When you have the flu, are you not the biggest asshole in the world? I am. I'm the worst. It's like, I need snacks and I want this TV. Give me my pillow. Blah, blah, blah. Because I'm in pain and no one is suffering like me. Like I'm a martyr just nailing myself to the cross. Get on down, Shallon. We need the wood. And so isn't that kind of how Pete is acting? You know, victim, victim, victim. And then he gets to go and kind of bully people, terrorize them into doing whatever maybe he wants. Because there's demands on the other end of this. There's demands on the other end of this that we don't see. If you don't blah, 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 then I'm just, fine, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to go do a bunch of shrooms and acid, which is what he also said. The drugs he uses are marijuana, shrooms, and acid. Shrooms and acid can really mess your brain up. I mean, acid especially. I mean, it can like permanently alter your brain chemistry. And when you already have bipolar and your brain chemistry is already not exactly where you want it, does that seem wise? That's why he has to keep having his meds adjusted, because he's fucking with his brain. It's just... And he also talks about Crohn's disease. That's a bowel disease. It's not like a disease I need a lot of details on, probably. And most people don't want to like share a ton of details on their bathroom situation. And he gets an IV drip of Remicade for it. Now, do you think Charlemagne the God asked what kind of IV drips he gets for Crohn's disease? I bet he didn't. I bet Pete volunteered this, just like he volunteered that he has anxiety, maybe because you're stuffing your body full of things like acid, and he takes Klonopin on flights. Think for a moment how much we now know about Pete Davidson's health. A lot. People who define themselves by their health, that's a very specific pathology, and it used to fall under the purview of histrionic personality disorder, which they've like declassified, and they're like, oh, it's not really a thing. I'm like, okay, well, these people are still out there. You know, it's like you can say a cat is no longer called a cat. It doesn't mean they don't exist. Like they're just like a nameless thing, like peeing all over the place and torturing your dog. So he brings all this up for victimhood, for identity, for manipulation, for terrorization. Do you have someone like this in your life? Do you? Maybe not. Maybe you're not dating someone who talks to Charlemagne and Thaw God and talks about drips and Klonopin and whatever, colostomy bags. But I bet you have somebody in your life who uses pity to manipulate you. So many questions I get from you guys. You're dealing with an obvious fuckboy. An obvious fuckboy who doesn't like you because he doesn't like any girl. He has no respect for anyone. And he's drunk texting, just the whole fuckboy thing. And there's always some qualifying sentence in there. He's hurt from a breakup. He's going through a lot. He suffers from anxiety. No, he doesn't, girl. No, we don't. I mean, okay, let's say that he does. Let's say that he does. That he suffers from anxiety and lupus and tuberculosis and scurvy and a peg leg, whatever. Why is that the price of admission into your life? Why is that all someone needs to have to come in and cause fucking chaos in your life, in your heart? Why does that make it okay? And you have to start looking at things in those terms. Why does pity make behavior okay? It doesn't. It doesn't. You can pity someone and say, that behavior is still not acceptable. I'm sorry you're going through that, but you don't get to make your problem my problem. You don't get to do that. You can sell crazy somewhere else. We're all stocked up. That's not how this is going to go. You can be sad. You can have depression. You can have anxiety. Oh, wait, you're not doing anything about it? You're doing drugs? No. Because that's what I've always said I hate about Pete Davidson. It's like, I have so many problems. Like, well, are you like doing a lot of really intensive therapy? Are you staying sober? Are you doing yoga meditation? It's like, nah, party's back on. I hate his voice. I can't imagine him on top of me like snorting. Ugh. But let's talk about someone who he was on top of. Ariana Grande. God, that poor girl. He used his comedy special as a thinly veiled just rant session, like a Pete Davidson burn book, bitching about Ariana, like a 7-minute bit about her and how if he pulled the same stuff that she had, his career would be over because he was really mad. He was really, really mad that she called him a distraction, an amazing distraction, right? And so this is what he shot back with. My career would be over tomorrow if I painted myself brown and hopped on the cover of Vogue magazine and just started shitting on my ex. Don't shame a girl for her spray tan. Sometimes it's all we have. Okay, we need it. But like, Pete, it's like, my career would be over if I was shitting on my ex. Now, here is 7 minutes of me shitting on my ex. And she wasn't shitting on you. She was giving her account of a relationship. And guess what? When two people break up, you don't get to control the narrative of what the other person says. And she gets to have her own view of this relationship, you know? And he's refusing to take any sort of like responsibility for it falling out. You know, be a man, be a gentleman. And say nothing. But no, like, and look, she's right that he was a distraction because what did he do? Love bomb. And he talks about that. I tell girls too much. You know, I want them to know what they're getting into and I'm too intense and I'm too crazy and I'm out. And like, what do you think that kind of behavior does to someone else? It distracts them. They're like, oh my God, you're this flashbang grenade that's rolled into their life. Ba-bam! And they're just like stunned by you. And then you're like shocked and dismayed that they describe that exact thing as being the case after the fact. Again, nowhere in here is any sort of self-awareness. He's giving us faux self-awareness. Oh, I'm just crazy and intense. But without any insight. My therapist, well, she's not really my therapist. She's my friend, Dr. Terry O'Grady. She's my friend's mom. She used to work for Dr. Phil. If you're watching this, Mama T, I love you. But she told me that 5% of people,
5%, that's it, are capable of insight. Isn't that interesting? Only 5%. I think I am. It's kind of what I do here. If you're watching this channel, you probably are too. But yo, we're a small group. And I'm like, well, great. My channel is never going to get that big. I'm only ever going to get 5% of the world's population. That's it. That's all we can hope for here at the Shallon. But when you think about it, I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh, all my friends are really insightful. And she's like, are they? Think about it. And I was like, oh. Some people, like Pete, they can identify what they're doing, but not why they're doing it and what it adds up to and why the emotional payout they're getting from it. And therefore, none of the behavior changes. We all have friends like that, don't we? And maybe we're the friend. And maybe this is kind of the wake-up call to be like, where you just see them repeat. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and it was a conversation I've had with her 6 times about 6 different guys. I was like, you have to stop asking them out. Stop it. She's like, I don't want to play games. I'm like, it's not a game. If he's not into you and he's not calling, you just got to let that go. Like, it's not, like my friend from high school. I was like, girl, I don't know. So it's like, I realized like she's not being insightful. Neither is Pete. It's like, oh, I'm crazy. But why? Why? And what are you doing? And therefore, if you're not taking responsibility for something, therefore there's no insight there, right? That is part of being an adult, is ownership. Ownership. I did that. And here's why I did it. And here's what I've learned from it. That's growth. So if you're dealing with the guy who is like, yeah, I just can't give you what you need. And I'm just crazy and I'm immature and blah, blah, blah. And there's not the critical second half of that conversation, which is, here's why I do that. And it can't just be the here's why. Because then we women, our psychology nature, our puzzle nature, our empathy nature plugs in and we're like, oh my God, let me fix this for you. Yeah, we're like a cat with a ball of yarn. Like, oh, I'm just gonna bat this around between my little paws forever. If there's not the critical part of, and here's what I have done and will continue to do to change that because I don't want to live like this, then you know what's gonna happen? He's gonna live like this. He's going to keep on living like this. And therefore, you are going to keep on living like this. You're suddenly going to be on someone else's merry-go-round. Guess what, girl? You got one of your own. You don't need to step into anyone else's crazy. You've got some. And if you think, like, well, I'm healthy and I have to help him because he's sick. Guess what? No, the fuck you are not healthy. No, you are not. You are codependent. We talk about codependence. It means you care more about fixing someone else's problems than they care about fixing them. That's how I was in a relationship. Wasn't fun. Wasn't happy. And I thought, yeah, it's like, well, look, I'm so plugged in because it gave me this like contact high of feeling so healthy by comparison. I don't have the issues you have. Oh, but by plugging in so hard, clearly I had some other ones. And we got to be honest with ourselves about that. We got to keep our side of the street clean. Dating isn't what? It's not 50-50. It's 100-100. Pete Davidson is not 100. He doesn't want to be. He wants to come in at a flashy 15 and have the other girl give 85, which is more than she can afford to give. More than that is, now she is in a bankrupt situation. She's in a deficit because she's giving. And even if he maxes out, he's maxing out at 15. And how is that fair? So Pete Davidson sucks is the TLDR here. And you got to look around at the boys in your life, and not just the boys, the friends, the family members, the coworkers, the people who are manipulating you with pity, health struggles, and faux introspection. I'm just crazy and this is how I am. I've diagnosed myself. I don't want to be diagnosed without being fixed. Do you want to go to the doctor when you're sick and they'd be like, oh yeah, you've got coronavirus. You can go now. You came there for medicine. That's the point. When I talk to someone about their issues, I want to hear the medicine. That's what I want to hear. I'm here for the pills. And not in the way Pete Davidson is here for the pills. I want to hear your medicine. I don't just want, it's like I have this and this and this and I'm just going to stay sick. Then you can stay sick somewhere else because you know what, baby? I'm a germaphobe. I want to know your opinion on Pete Davidson. We didn't even get into the bullshit he was talking about with SNL and how he thinks he's the butt of the joke. Again, the victim mentality, the victim narrative. I'm the joke. I'm the victim. Poor me, poor me, poor me. He has displayed it across every single category in his life. Romance, family, work. What is left? It runs so deep, and that's how victims are. So you got to look at, if someone is just a victim in one category, baby girl, they're doing it across the board. And if we martyr ourselves and fall into that, which we all do at some point, right? It's our life's work to self-martyr and be like, oh, I'm going to pull out of this because I don't like it. I don't want to feel like a victim. I want to feel like a warm-blooded alpha. I want to feel like a tigress out there, just like, not like some little mongoose. Well, mongooses are no joke. Dope. You don't want to feel like a little turtle without a shell. So you got to do that work, you know? So yeah, tell me your thoughts on Pete Davidson. He also said in his comedy special that Ariana Grande was playing the long con by saying that he has a big dick. He's like, because that means, he's like, I don't. And that means every girl who sleeps with me forever is going to be disappointed. Raise one to Ariana. Beware the fury of a patient woman. I'll talk to you later, Shalloners. Find me on Instagram, and if you want a cameo, book me on Cameo for a video shout out, birthdays, divorces, pep talks, whatever you might need. And feel free to ask me a love question of your own at shallonlester.com and click Get Help.